Wow, what a scene this is. The world number one and world champion both on the same street. This is not a very common scene you will see in your lifetime. Magnus Carlsen entering in, but it's Gukesh who's playing Wesley So at the Norway Chess 2026. This is their classical game, and it'll be very exciting to see how Gukesh fares in this one. Wesley is the leader of the tournament. He is on a roll right now, and the game begins with pawn to e4. Wesley plays pawn to e5, and we have a knight coming out to f3, knight to c6, and not the Ruy Lopez, it's the Italian with bishop c4. And Wesley brings his knight out to f6, keeping the e4 pawn in mind, d3 defending, and bishop to e7. Generally you put your bishop on c5, but bishop e7 is also played. It's a slightly less ambitious way to play, or maybe I could say even more ambitious way to play than bishop c5, because it gives white more chances. Bishop b3 played here by Gukesh. And now Wesley chooses a very sharp line. He plays d5, and the reason why this line is very sharp is because after knight takes d5, the e5 pawn already starts to become a target with rook e1. And if you play a move like bishop f6, that's a bit passive. f6 opens up this diagonal, and so bishop g4 is the most common reply, pinning the knight. But now h3, and when you ask this question, either black has to go back, allowing g4, or they have to take on f3, which is actually a very decent position for white. So bishop h5, g4 played, and bishop g6 now. And Gukesh, good or bad, must take the pawn, because why else would you weaken your king side? Knight takes pawn, taken by Gukesh. Knight takes knight by Wesley So. And now rook takes on e5, taken, attacking the knight in the center with the bishop. Now Wesley goes knight to b4. Well, the other move was c6, but I think knight b4 is stronger. a3, a question is asked, and I think bishop d6 is a good move, forcing the rook to go back, and then knight c6. But instead he goes knight c6 back right away, and this gives Gukesh more options, and he thinks for 10 minutes and plays rook d5, a good move, not going back. He sees that this is an opportunity for him. Bishop d6 played, and this allows bishop f4. And now white is the one who's pawn up, pinning this bishop. The queen could go to f3, so it's looking good. Knight e7, and now bishop takes d6. Very logical. He takes it. Bishop takes d6. C takes d6, and rook to d4 or rook b5. Both these moves are possible. He goes rook b5, keeping an eye on the b7 pawn. It's such a weird position after first few moves from the Italian. b6, that's very slow from Wesley. Well, much better was king h8 with the idea of planning f5, but b6 played. And now can Gukesh go f4? That would be a bit too much. He develops his knight to c3, brings his knight out, and Wesley goes king h8. He has a clear plan on his mind, which is to play f5, but I think queen f3 makes a lot of sense. But Gukesh goes rook b4. The best defense, by the way, was queen f3, f5, and queen g3. It's a very interesting maneuver, but rook b4, the idea for Gukesh is that if f5, he wants to meet it with rook f4, and he feels that if he brings a piece closer to his king side, the king side would be safer. So I think it's a very good sentiment here. rook f4. And a nice move for Wesley now is bishop e8. And he finds it. The reason this move is strong is you reroute your bishop here and you make space for your knight to come to g6. Queen f3, eyeing the f file and also the rook on a8. The bishop comes to c6. Maybe better was bishop d7 defending here, because now queen g3 feels like a very decent move. Yes, queen g3 played here by Gukesh. And queen to d7, defending the pawn on f5. And do you go rook d4? It's so creative, yeah, these positions. I mean, the natural move is, of course, to play rook e1. But Gukesh is so sharp and he's like, okay, I'm now attacking the pawn on d6. Which is looking like a good move. Rook d8. And now you can bring rook to e1. White is already on the offensive here. Gukesh has played this game beautifully. Rook e1. And black takes on g4. But in comes, I mean, you can either take h takes g4 or you can go bishop e6. He goes bishop e6. Beautiful move. The bishop comes in, attacks the queen. The queen drops back to e8. And now, I mean, taking back makes a lot of sense. So he takes back the pawn. Black's counterplay is, of course, related to the weakened king here. But queen h2, dropping the queen back, makes sense. He goes here. Now d6 is under pressure still. Knight goes to g6. Even opening up these possibilities. But you can't play bishop f5 as the rook is hanging. So king f1 defends the rook. Now bishop f5 is a threat. And rook d6 even. He goes knight e5. But now bishop f5 threatening mate. He finds it. Gukesh making one good move after another. Playing incredible chess. If you play g6, I have rook e5. Takes. And then bishop g6 with a mating idea. So he goes h6. And now Gukesh goes knight d5. Maybe instead of this, queen h4 was a very nice move. Eyeing here, threatening rook e5. But knight d5, he plays it. And now Wesley sacks the rook. Takes queen f7. He puts pressure on f5 and d5. The queen goes to g2. Not the best move. The best move once again was queen h4. But you had very little time here. Gukesh, 8 minutes on the clock. Wesley takes on f5. And all of a sudden, Gukesh's position gets a bit dangerous because the knight is pinned. He goes rook e3. Now rook f8. Black's moves are easier to play. This pin is also quite nasty. He goes pawn to c4, which is natural, fixing the knight on d5. And Wesley has 33 minutes. He goes even b5. Whoa, what kind of a move is that? Can you simply not take here? I mean, takes, rook takes. What's his plan with this move b5? I mean, Gukesh can take, but he doesn't. He goes queen g3. It's a bit surprising. But maybe ideas like knight e7 and knight g6. So he takes on d5. Rook takes d5. Seems like a must now. B takes c4. And now either you take here or you take on d6. But there's so much counterplay that black gets after queen b1 check. He gives a check. Rook must drop back. I mean, you can go king g2. But then b2 is hanging. So he drops back the rook. And now queen c2. Attacking c4 is more accurate than taking b2. He takes on b2. But now rook takes d6. He can take here. And Gukesh still an exchange up. He takes with on d6. He has a minute on the clock. Knight c4. And he comes back too soon. Rook d7. Keeping an eye here would have been better. But now we have reached move 40. And Wesley So plays rook f5, offering a draw. A very interesting decision by Wesley. And Gukesh can play on But here he does not like his position and agrees to a draw. Quite a surprising decision by Gukesh. And Wesley So is like, these are the possible moves here, and maybe the position should be around equal. The arbiter asks for the result and tells the players that in 20 minutes you have to play the Armageddon, which is going to be quite quite interesting and exciting. And Wesley is analyzing, and Gukesh is like, let's analyze after the Armageddon, because you have to snap out of what has happened and get ready for that game. But a great one by Gukesh and great defense by Wesley. Some very interesting moments to learn from in this game.